All right, thank you for helping me with this project,
No problem.
Lindsay. I really appreciate you.
No problem.
So when I was in your room the other day, I scripted the whole lesson and then ran it against the Iowa teaching standards.
Okay.
And I noticed a lot of strengths throughout the lesson.
Okay.
I thought we had talked before during our pre-conference that you wanted me to gather some evidence on your behavior management, so
Yeah.
Standard 6. I thought you were phenomenal with your
Okay.
behavior management.
Great.
And your classroom routines helped bolster that. The systems that you had in place, like all the students knowing all their job roles, was really pretty awesome.
Cool.
Both at getting materials and at cleanup. There was no fighting that or asking questions. They just knew exactly what their jobs were. So that was really great.
Awesome.
I thought you also did a great job using multiple instructional strategies, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. And I think the thing, especially in regards to Standard 6, that was really impressive was your tone of voice.
Okay.
It was so consistent, so calm and assertive. I remember one instance in which a student had gone under this table here while you were turned around helping a group over here. And as you turned around, you looked at the student and said to get up off the floor, and then quickly realized that he was actually just picking up a pencil. And your response was just really simple, and you were like, oh, you're picking up a pencil, thank you. So it was really great to see that tone of voice just stayed level no matter what you were talking about or what you were delivering. So that was what I remember most vividly about the lesson, funny enough. What do you remember most about it?
I remember that the kids were really well engaged. Like, I didn't really have very much behavior problems. I do know that, like, Jeremiah over at the red table, he was having some issues. He kind of refused to work a little bit or refused to clean up. Those are my biggest things that I remember from it. But overall, I think it went really good.
I would agree. It's funny how we remember the tiny little things that didn't go well as opposed to all the great things that went really, really well. Another thing I noticed during the lesson was that you delivered your daily learning targets and reviewed the success criteria during the demo. And even though there was all that information packed in there, you chunked it really, really well. And I think it took 6 minutes from the time that the kids came in to go through that demo to get them into their tables working. So my question for you is, what do you do or how do you plan for chunking your lessons?
Since they work on it multiple days, they kind of get it by the end of it, you know, and that was like number 3, day 3 of working on the project. And so when I plan it, I plan on spending like 10 minutes in the very beginning, and I kind of break it down when I'm planning their lessons, like what are we going to do this day, what are we going to do this day, you know, and I try to figure out like what specific things I want them to do by the end of the class. And so when I chunk it, I show them those chunks in the very beginning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And then revisit them in those subsequent lessons.
Yep.
Well, I thought it was just chunked really, really well. Like 6-7 minutes seems like an ideal time to have kids sitting and attending to direct instruction.
Their attention spans. Like, if you keep them at the carpet much longer than 10 minutes, I've noticed that, like, especially second grade and below, you lose them. You know, so you have to chunk it almost.
And I thought you did a great job with it. Another thing I noticed that I really appreciated was how tightly aligned your learning targets and success criteria were with our district curriculum skills. So the question I had for you is, how well do you feel the work that your students created during the lesson aligned with those curricular standards?
I think it aligned really well because the learning target was create works of art about home, school, and community. And they had to have one of each, so it met it. And then in order to make it more personable, I let them choose more things, you know, to go above and beyond just meeting the learning target and making it meaningful for them. I think it aligned really well.
Yeah, I would agree.
Especially the warm and cool colors too. I kind of added in the level 2 learning target as well.
So on that front, actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think you do a great job of not teaching up from the bottom, but giving students the level 3 or the standard to interact with, and then providing them with level 2 targets to reach the level 3, all in one lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. All right.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So on that front too, when you were planning, what actions did you take that you think led to high student engagement with the task?
I think like giving them choices is a big part in my lessons. Yeah, we're all doing the same project, but I don't want it to look like mine, or I don't want yours, the students, to look like mine. It needs to be different. And then I also tell them it needs to mean something to you, otherwise you're gonna get bored with it. So in order to get them engaged in the project, it has to be something that they're interested in, and I think giving them that choice helps a lot.
Well, I think you did a great job aligning with the standards, like I said, but bringing that element of personal choice or background and knowledge into it.
Some of them were like, well, what if I don't want to do Willard? And I'm like, it doesn't matter. It just says school.
Right.
So if you do any school, they're like, well, I want to do Capitol View. I'm like, go for it, I guess. But me personally, I want to do Willard because I teach here, you know? And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. That's funny.
Some of them wanted to do other schools. It was cool.
Hey, to each their own, right?
Yeah, exactly.
As long as you're meeting the standard.
Yep.
Yeah. Great. So just the last couple questions here on some of the strengths that I noticed. We had talked initially about focusing on classroom behavior, classroom management, and like I said, I think a lot of the things you did led to really solid classroom management, from the student engagement to the systems and procedures you had built into your classroom, and really your disposition being so calm and assertive and level the whole time. What do you think you will continue doing in the future in order to maintain that, or what do you think you could do to strengthen it even further?
I think I'm going to continue the voice level. That always works. Like if I raise my voice, they raise their voice, and it just becomes a power struggle. And I've learned that since my second year. Yeah. So that always helps. I'm going to continue doing that. I don't feel like there's much that I need to change, but it can always get better.
So what are you going to just continue reinforcing then? That tone of voice I heard you say?
Yeah, the tone of voice. I think the color clip chart helps.
For the class?
For the class. The class's colors, because they get popcorn scoops or something in their classroom, and that helps. And yeah, I think just the tone of voice is really helpful for management.
Well, I think you have a great system going, and it to me appeared that the students were really intrinsically motivated throughout the lesson.
Cool.
So that was really great to see. And what strategies will you continue planning for and implementing during instruction in order to maintain that high level of engagement with your students?
Strategies, so like how I teach it, or?
Sure, or specific strategies. I mean, we talked a little bit about the chunking, and I guess I'm asking you what when you sit down to plan and when you're implementing 11, do you really make a point of hitting on or utilizing in order to ensure that high level of engagement?
I make a point of demonstrating. I think that's a really good strategy. And then they can see it, and then they can go do it themselves. So like the I do, you do type thing.
Yeah.
But definitely, I'm trying to think.
No, you're fine.
Demonstrating it, and then to get them engaged, definitely like the choice. I
Sure.
feel like, you know, I can't think of anything else that I can.
Yeah, that's
off the
fine.
top of my head.
So
Yeah.
really just focusing on those brief bursts of direct instruction,
Yep.
followed by opportunities for them to explore, all the while wrapping in student interests and background.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. All right. Well, like I said, I thought it was a super strong lesson. I thought your students were really, really engaged.
Cool.
It was clear that they were acquiring the target for the day. When we were in the pre-planning, you had mentioned that this class that you were going to be doing this lesson for is typically advanced in comparison to the other sections,
Yeah.
and that you often had to plan for extension activities. So the one little thing that I thought you did a great job planning for the extension.
Yeah.
The one thing that I saw there that perhaps you could grow in was planning to also collect and assess additional evidence during that extension
Okay.
activity. And I know that's really nitpicky.
Yeah.
You're
No,
like, yeah.
it's okay. It's just hard.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's mostly what my growth area sort of feedback is around. So
I like that.
like I said, I noticed during the reflection portion of the activity, it was still super aligned with our presenting and responding scales. And I thought you maybe missed an opportunity to collect evidence against those scales for those students. But that was really about it.
So when you say collect evidence for that, that's just me kind of walking around and observing them.
Even
and
if it's just,
documenting it.
yeah, even if on their back of their projects or whatever, some kind of note that they've met that standard, because you gave them such great instructions on how to reflect and share their work with one another, that I think there was a lot of solid evidence being generated during that reflection activity. I know it's really nitpicky.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought it was fantastic. Was there any point in the lesson during which you felt less successful than you typically do?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah.
No.
Was I heard you at the beginning, you mentioned our friend over here at the red table.
Yeah.
Is that something that you experience frequently with him, or was it day to day?
Well, I experience it frequently because he goes upstairs to the behavior teacher and takes a break right before my class. And so most of the time, he misses the instruction of the carpet.
Oh.
And so then he comes, and that's the point that he needs the most, you know? And so he comes late, and then he is kind of lost, so I have to either help him or his partner at his table has to help him, and so then I can understand his frustration.
Sure.
You know, and he's like, I don't even know what I'm doing half the time, and it's hard.
Frustrating.
Yeah, and then he has behavior issues already.
Well, in general, I did not. I mean, he was not disruptive to others.
No, and he's gotten way better since kindergarten.
Great.
About that, but yeah, he does refuse a lot of
Would there
times.
be a way to work out maybe what I hear you saying is that missing that direct instruction piece, because you do it so quickly and so efficiently at the beginning of class. So even if he comes in 10 minutes late, he's actually missing something that's really critical for his development in here. Would it be possible maybe to get him into class right away and then release him after that direct instruction, maybe?
Possibly.
Yeah?
I'll have to talk to his classroom teacher and the behavior teacher, but
Sure.
it's possible.
Yeah. If I was your principal, then maybe I would take on that responsibility.
Yeah. Right.
But I think you did a great job identifying potentially what would, could be contributing to that. Okay. So this next question is in regards to that additional bit of evidence collection during the third part of that lesson. So, and we touched on it a little bit, but can you think of any ways that you could have assessed student learning during the third part of that lesson, during the reflection?
I feel like the only thing that I can think of is observations and like pen and paper, or even like the standards tracker to document whether or not they met it.
Yeah.
But other than that, they could do like an exit ticket type thing, like on a sticky note even, and just kind of reflect on that part. Other than that, I can't think of anything.
Sure. It's kind of tough to collect some of that conversational data.
Or even like an artist statement type thing.
Oh, sure.
There's multiple ways that you could do a reflection piece. But
yeah,
most of all, observations, especially when they're talking.
Yeah, it's nice to get that authentic conversation, right?
Yeah. I mean, they don't get to do it often. So.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I think it seemed that they really enjoyed that portion of the activity, actually.
Yeah, I haven't done that much with them.
Yeah.
So that's good.
So thinking about those additional opportunities, is there something that you would need to do to front load during the first or second third of the lesson before collecting that?
I would probably have to, depending on what it was, I would probably have to say, I'm looking for this during your conversations. I'm going to be grading you on this. I would have to demonstrate, like, maybe a conversation, me pretending a conversation between another student and showing them what I'm looking for. If I was to assess something, possibly. Otherwise, it's nice to just kind of get that on the spot. But like artist statement or exit ticket, I would have to describe.
Yeah.
Or demonstrate.
So like pull them back for another mini direct instruction bit.
I just didn't feel like we had enough time.
Sure.
So.
The last couple questions here. Again, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit with me here this morning. So this is, again, in relation to that little nitpicky piece. I had to find something. Thinking about those multiple measures for the evidence or that assessment at the end and that extension activity, and this kind of gets to what you were already talking about, but what would you need to do differently while you were planning for the lesson?
Well, when I plan a lesson, I plan out what they're doing each day, so then that day would look different, probably, and I probably wouldn't have given them so much time to be able to finish their projects or add as much detail as they did, like the people and the extra things, and I probably would have limited their time working on that and then brought them back to the carpet, figured out a plan, for what I'm assessing while they're doing that.
Sure.
And that whole planning aspect would have changed.
And then I guess what I hear you saying is like during that direct instruction, that would be an introduction of an additional target, essentially.
Yeah. And if I were to assess a different target, I would obviously have them turn around and look at their learning target.
You do a great job with that.
Possibly do different success criteria for that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Final question. Are there any supports that would help you provide additional measures of student evidence during lesson planning or lesson implementation that I or anyone else can provide?
Not that I can think of, other than possibly changing that schedule around
for
the one student. But that would be something I would do if you were my principal.
Sure.
But other than that, I can't think of anything.
Okay. Well, did you have any other questions about the process or about anything that I recorded here?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
No.
well, please feel free to reach out if you think of anything.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, Miss Manser.
Thank you. You want me to stop this?
Sure.